email. Oh, thank you. The email that's his official state legislature email, most of them are going to look like that. Some people will use a personal one, but most of them are now using this. He gives you a phone number. And this is, again, as I said, he's more forthcoming than most. And then we get some information. We know from his heading that he's a Democrat. He's representing Grafton County, District 12. And there's a little personal biography. So all of the legislators have this kind of information. What differs is how much contact information they will share. And some will list only their legislative email. So unless you can work around it by knowing a neighbor of a neighbor who knows the legislator and get a phone number, you may be stuck with the emails. Not that email is bad, but I will warn you that legislators get lots of emails. Some of them are formulaic. And I became aware of that when my neighbor, Dan, Representative Wolf, called my husband and said, "You got to help me. I've got 150 and they're growing emails on this one bill." It was one of the transgender or something bills, and they were identical. My cousin Olivia, that was the name they used. I don't know why, but there was this cousin Olivia who lives all over New Hampshire and has relatives, and told a personal story of anyway. Ken created a filter so that Dan didn't have to look through all those and could look for the real ones that were unique. So my advice is don't use a formula email because they'll get dozens of them and they will ignore them. Okay.
You can use them and modify them, right?
Of course, because the link is there.
Right.
That's what you want. And then you change the wording, and if it has something that's simply not true to you, don't use it, use your own personal thing.
So Liz, I have a question on that.
Yes.
Don't a lot of offices, and maybe this is not so much for our local congressional reps who don't get as many emails, but at the federal level, they tabulate how many come in on a certain
They
time.
do. Yes.
So you writing a formula or using the 5 calls app or something is fine because all they're going to do is check it off.
For Congress, that's fine. You're right. That's all they do is tabulate. It's an aide, intern, does all that and gives a report at the end of the day to the senator or the congressperson and says you got 786 calls in favor of that bill and 5 opposed, whatever. So yes, that tabulation works. It's when you're trying to contact your own state rep or state senator that, you don't want to do this. You
switched to Lebanon, so people from
Oh,
Lebanon.
okay, so some of you can see some other people. And so remember, you just then click on the person's name and you will get that individual bio and the individual links.
How is Susan Almy in 2 districts?
She's been there forever.
Because she's
She's I think it's a floterial up there, isn't she?
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
District 17, got it.
Yep. Yeah.
That is-
so she represents all 3 wards.
That's
How did
right.
you do that?
Yeah. How does she do that?
It's one district.
It's one district, but it has different wards, whereas the other wards each are in their own district. All right, we'll do a real quick tutorial on this. Redistricting is very complicated in New Hampshire because the districts are so small. Each House seat represents, in theory, 3,444 people, but you can't divide towns up quite that neatly. So we have a thing called a floterial district, which incorporates several districts to kind of even out the numbers so that you are getting your fair representation. But it does mean you want to see if you've got more than one rep because you might be in 2 districts at once. And you will find that out when you pull down your town and you can see that.
And oftentimes floterial district representatives don't get contacted as much because people don't know.
They don't understand it. They, your local rep because it's someone who lives in your town. You don't understand about the floterial. My floterial district now, I now live in Manchester. That floterial rep totally ignores me, but that's all right. I've never met him, so why should he pay attention? I keep saying, I live in Manchester, I'm in your district, whatever. He still ignores me. That's the way it goes. So I'm giving you theory. But when you're first contacting your rep, if you don't personally know them, let them know who you are. And I use the word constituent, but you don't have to. You can just say, I live at Kendall in Hanover, and you are my representative. And there they, okay, they say, now I'm going to read your letter. So that kind of identification until they start recognizing your name is a good thing. So what do you tell these people? If there is a bill, you realize they're probably still they're still in session right now?
Yep, they're voting today and yesterday on it.
Yeah, and they may still be going. They went last night late enough that they missed all the journal deadlines, journalism deadlines.
Until 8:30.
Something like that. And I don't know if they're still in session right now, because I've been in the car driving up here.
They finished at like 4:30.
They finished at
But they
4:30.
rejected a bunch of the calendar items, so.
Yeah, so just realize these guys have been working hard all day, yesterday and today. Tensions were high. But when there's a bill you care about, you contact and it's coming up for a vote soon, like a week from now, so you don't contact them while they're sitting there, please. And you don't contact them a month ahead of time because they're thinking about other bills that are coming up. So a week ahead of time, you contact them and you tell them, again, I'm the constituent, I'm from this town. I'm writing about, you give the bill number if you know it. If you don't know the bill number, you describe it. The bill that's going to change our school districts into 12 districts statewide. They'd know what you're talking about, even if you didn't have that bill number. And then you tell them in a couple of sentences what your concerns are, either pro or con. I mean, we can, maybe we talk negatively here most of the time because we feel like we're fighting a defensive battle this year of defending rights against erosion. So, but assume that, there are good bills out there and you may want them to support it. And then you sign off with your name and your address. Yes.
Anytime I make a call, I get an intern. I never, ever talk to the
To
person.
Congress. Oh, yeah, you're never going to get through to your congressperson.
I'm talking about New Hampshire.
Yes. Who do you get when you call? You
I
mean
get
your
some intern.
some state rep?
I want to show you that there's phone numbers for state representatives and there's home numbers. If you call their office number, you're going to get an intern. Don't ever do that.
Right, that's what I
Always
got.
call them at home.
I didn't know you could do that. It seems
Yes.
sort of, I don't know.
They do catalog, I mean, they catalog the calls when you get an intern, they do,
They do it at the congressional level. I don't know if they do it at the state level.
I live in Hanover.
You live in Hanover,
We
yeah.
have two questions from the chat.
Yeah.
One is from Andrew, would love to know a foolproof way of getting a hold of my senator, Tim Lang. Last time I tried, I hit a Google AI assistant that wouldn't let me leave a voicemail.
I'll text you his cell phone number.
All right, see, that's what you need. You need an Olivia to give you the in. Most of the senators have their office number listed anyway.
Yeah.
And so there you will get somebody,
Yes.
not the senator.
Right.
That's why we're talking about a lot of emails here. You might be more likely to get through.
So see that there's, it looks like a cell phone number.
That's unusual.
what is Greg Lang's number?
Tim Lang.
Tim Lang.
Pulling it up.
Territory. All right, we're sharing information here, but this is a typical senator's page because the contact information does not list a home address. It lists
That's her personal number.
Pardon?
That's her personal number, I just
Yeah,
checked.
I think it is. That's right. But you do see her general court email, right? So you can reach her at that. If you call the cell phone, you'd probably get her voicemail, but most of them have a 603-271 number. That's the office at the State House. And you might get through to a secretary, or you might just leave a message and the senator might or might not get it.
And then the other question from the chat is from Bridget. If calls are simply tallied, does that mean I only need to state my opinion, such as I'm opposed to X, without giving any reason for my opinion?
Yes. Isn't that frustrating? Because if you've got an opinion, you want to share it, right?
But
And
if you're
yeah,
nervous, you don't have to be on the phone for very long.
no, I mean, no, they're not, they don't want to get into a debate with anybody. If you get a live person, whether it's an intern, an aide, or the actual state rep or state senator that you're calling, they don't have time to debate with you. But if you have a good statement, 1 or 2 sentences, I'm worried about this bill because people like my mother will be disenfranchised. She no longer has documents that would prove her citizenship, and she's moving to New Hampshire soon into a retirement community. And I don't know how she's going to be able to register to vote if this bill becomes law. So please vote against it. All right, that's it. That's the end of the debate. They're not going to argue with you, but you hope you've made your statement forcefully so that they're going to remember it when they're voting. And yeah, everything else is being tallied, but you want to, what's the best time to call a rep? Weekends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At home.
yeah, weekends at home, or you meet them at the town transfer station. Yeah, I used to meet Danny at the transfer station on Saturday mornings. That was a good time. So, I mean, you start stalking them. No, you don't really, I'm not advising that.
I'd always run into Senator Larson at Market Basket.
Yeah, I mean, they're real people, they're doing errands. When do they go to the library? You find them there. All right. But let's talk first, and it sounds like you're all very knowledgeable and you've testified on bills. I'm not sure about everybody on the call, so I just want to make clear, when you're looking up a bill, the bill is originating, New Hampshire bills either originate in the House or the Senate. So it's either an HB something or other with numbers or an SB. It keeps that number throughout its life. It doesn't change, but it will have its first hearing in whatever it is. So HB is in the House. Yeah, pull up, we got 323. Okay. So that's House Bill 323. It's actually a holdover from last year, but they're voting on it this year. And so that bill was heard in the House first. Last year, it got amended, and then it was heard in the Senate and all that. This had the complicated history. Olivia just clicked on the docket of the bill, and you can see every step of the way it's documented. It tells what the vote was, what the subcommittee work session recommended. And then we get down to the bottom and you see it switches from H's to S's. That is, it moved from the House to the Senate. The last House bill, the last House line there was ought to pass with amendment, and it gives the number. And then does it give us a number? Yes, 190 to 148. So that passed.
And if you want to see what that is, it's over here. This is the roll call.
Yeah, you could actually see how individual people voted if there is a roll call. Not all bills get a roll call. And then it moved to the Senate. So then we had all those S statements on the docket. And eventually it passed the Senate. Go back and see that? All right, so
Um,
she clicked on the number and then she clicked on the docket. And you can see it got an ought to pass vote of 16-8. What does that tell you, people, when you see a 16-8 this year in the Senate? Anybody?
Republicans have a big majority.
It's a party line vote, yes.
It's a party line vote. That's right. They have 16-8. So that's usually a clue right there that this is a
Gerrymandering
party line
works.
vote. You could look up the roll call. You don't need to. We know it's a party line. Barbara, you wanted to say something?
Well, I'm trying to figure why it is that we're all Democrats. And so you make us
all Democrats.
well in this world.
Oh,
But we're in a very democratic
area, yes.
and so we go from Concord way over here to be in one Senate. Which is badly gerrymandered.
Yes.
Well,
And so
that was deliberate.
It really is sort of, really sorry that we're all Democrats. I mean, we should have neighbors who are all these sort of things. And I think the Republicans, they've really done a number on it. This is all coming from, all these rules that they're coming up with come from ALEC, very likely.
Some of them are homegrown, and I could give you names of a thing called the Liberty Caucus.
Yeah.
You've heard of the Free Staters. Not all of them are Free Staters, but it is the most conservative group. And the names of sponsors on some of these some of these odd bills that you say, who in the world would think of that? You see the same names recurring as co-sponsors. So there is a very powerful faction. I will not say they are Republicans. They ran as Republicans. They've got R's by their names.
I know.
But, they're their own thing.
But I think when she referred to for ALEC, that's the American Legislative Exchange Council. And that's a business industry organization that does sample bills.
It's all.
So they do.
It goes back to the way back.
Yeah, and you're right. And so some of these bills are popping up in other state legislatures. You're right. But there's, what I'm trying to point out about New Hampshire is that there's this unique faction here that has proposed a number of constitutional amendments this year that are really, really strange.
We had another question in the chat from Bridget. Sorry. Bridget, do you want to ask that?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I just unmuted. I was just wondering, in all of those voting results, is one party or the other always listed first, like 306 to 308? Which party is that?
No, it's not by party. The numbers that you see for what the vote was taken could be a bipartisan bill. It could be all over the place. And then the names are listed alphabetically. So
is the first one the yays and the second one the nays? Is that it?
Correct.
Whichever one, I think.
Well, so the vote here is ought to pass as amended. So the yay is the people who voted yes for the ought to pass as amended, which is what that OTPA stands for.
So the yes votes won. That meant the bill passed. Some bills come before the legislature as ITL, inexpedient to legislate. And sometimes that's what we want. We want that bill to be killed. And the committee has recommended it be killed. And then a yes vote would be the first number, but that yes vote is to kill the bill.
Yeah, but the yes votes are the first number given, right?
Yes. The
Okay, thank you.
yes votes on the recommendation as listed for each bill. And in this case, it was OTPA.
Thank you.
And it does show green, kind of the green and red.
Yeah. Yes, it doesn't in the other listing, but here it does. All right. So this is why your state reps vote matters, you know, because they may be convinced to vote against the party line. We do have some bipartisan bills that are submitted and they get voted on their merits, you know, which you may or may not agree with. So we're at the point where bills are going to cross over to the other body very soon. Not quite. We've got another week of legislative hearings on some bills that went through finance, but this was a big week of dealing with bills. Anything that got voted inexpedient to legislate is dead. Just ignore it. It's not going anywhere. It won't get a hearing in the Senate. And Senate bills that will move over to the House early April, I think they have as a deadline.
Andrew had a hand up. And there was another question.
Yeah, what's the other question?
The other question is from Valerie. Can you please go back to the Free State and Liberty Alliance? How are they different? Are there more of our Republican reps, Free Staters, or Liberty Alliance?
Oh, that's an interesting question. There are more Republicans listed as Republicans than there are Free Staters listed as Republicans. And Liberty Alliance is a little bit harder to explain. It's the Free Staters plus some of the whack jobs. No, that's
Somehow got elected.
that somehow got elected. And how many are in the Liberty Alliance now? 60
I
or
think the
something?
best way to do is pull up the list of the candidates they endorsed and spent money on.
Yeah.
So that's probably, Kaylee, if you're able to do that, just pop that in the chat.
Yeah. There are groups that have a list of who's in the Liberty Alliance, how closely people vote with the Liberty Alliance. So there are some state reps who agree with them on some issues, but not on others.
Some have 100% voting record and some have.
More like 70%. Yeah, you know, they're still independent on maybe on the social issues or maybe on finance issues.
So Free Staters and Liberty Alliance are not the same thing?
No, Free Staters are part of the Liberty Alliance, but the Liberty Alliance includes some other people who were elected as Republicans or Libertarians. We don't have any right now, but they could have been, who are more conservative than the bulk of the Republicans. The dilemma, of course, on election day is somebody who wants to vote the party line and doesn't know really much about the candidates. And that's why we've got so many extremists in there right now. And, you know, you start recognizing the names. If you look at a bill that upsets you, look at who the co-sponsors are. Look at another bill that upsets you, you'll see some of those same names. And you start compiling your own mental list. But how do you know about the bills that are coming up? The ones that you should pay attention to. There are many groups in the state that have a certain focus. League of Women Voters focus is primarily on voting, election law. Open Democracy has a focus on that, as well as
Campaign finance and
campaign finance, and they do a great job of researching that. If you're looking for health issues and senior aging and childcare issues, a group called New Futures is a great one to follow. All of these groups publish weekly legislative alerts, let's call them. That's what the league calls them. If someone could please put, do we have a problem with something?
No, we're good. We're good.
Oh, okay. Let's think of some other groups. Sierra Club is active, and there's several environmental organizations here in the Upper Valley that you may follow.
Kent Street.
Pardon?
Kent Street Coalition.
And the Kent Street Coalition is a very liberal one that does a lot of human rights things as well as the election law. If you're following public education issues, we've got Reaching Higher New Hampshire and New Hampshire fair funding. So hunt around a little bit, you know, you'll find them on social media if you do that. I'm not saying anybody has to. And then you can sign up for their newsletters, and remember that you can also unsubscribe to newsletters. So if you're saying, I'm inundated, it's more than I need, get rid of it. Oh, New Hampshire Housing Action, if you're concerned with housing availability and so on. So I don't, you know, I'm not going to try to give you a whole list of them, but you know, you talk to people who share some of your concerns, you'll find these, and we all try to get out information like tomorrow, because there's this cool thing that comes out, and it's called the calendar. And I brought one with me. So for those who are here in the room, this is the House calendar from a few weeks ago. It is 47 pages. This week's was 128, I think, because they list all the bills that are going to come up for a vote. But in addition, so we start there with, is there going to be you know, a session, a voting session? If so, what day is it? What time? You know, they're usually on Thursday. As I said, this week, they're meeting 2 days this week, Wednesday and Thursday. And then you want to scroll a little bit there for me, Olivia? Thank you.
So this is next week's calendar. They've already released it.
Oh,
for
they
next
released
week.
it. Okay.
So this is saying that there's a House session. I always read this sort of first paragraph.
Yeah.
So, you know, the 26th, they'll be meeting, and it's their crossover deadline. And then something is due by 4:30, you know, any floor amendment.
Yeah. So they're going to have a busy session next week because it's the last chance to deal with House bills. So some
These are bills
bills
that are laid on the table. So that means they're tabled. These bills have been tabled for the session.
So they're unlikely to come off the table. It's very hard to bring them off the table farther into the session. So you can consider them dead if you want to.
What does the crossover thing mean? Whatever that was.
Crossover is a deadline in March or April where all the bills that were introduced in the House have to come up for a vote on the floor of the House. And only those that ought to pass majority vote, in other words, they pass, move over to the Senate and vice versa. So SB bills get a vote in the Senate. If they pass, they move over to the House. And guess what? We start the public hearing bit all over again. So if you wrote testimony, we'll get to testimony in a few minutes. If you wrote testimony for the bill when it was in the House, think about what went over well with that testimony, because you can use it in the Senate. You know, you just cut and paste on your computer. So after they list the bills that are coming up for vote, they list the committee meetings. These are hearings. Those? No, the hearings are above them.
Well,
Oh, no, it's a mix.
It's a mix. So like this is a work session in finance.
Yep. And that's what we're getting next week is finance trying to finish up some bills. So you can look through this and you'll see what committees are going to be meeting and what bills they'll be hearing. So for next week, there aren't a lot of bills. Oh, there we go. On Tuesday, March 17th, under finance, that's as an executive session on look at all those bills. I think those finance reps need to get a pay raise for next week, don't they? Give them an extra quarter. I mean, you know, they
get mileage, right? They get extra
mileage. They are going to try to discuss every one of those bills, evaluate it, and then vote on how to recommend it to the whole body. So when the bill comes before the floor, it's got a recommendation, as we talked about, of ought to pass as amended, or inexpedient to legislate, or the fun thing, no recommendation when it ties. Oh, boy, that's when we can get excited because they're going to be trying to argue on the floor. And before the session, they're going to be arguing with each other and trying to get the votes. It means it's a close bill, probably not directly along party lines.
So there's bills scheduled for public hearings here in the Criminal Justice Committee.
So these are SB bills. These are Senate bills that have already crossed over to the House. They got a vote in the Senate and now the second hearing's coming up. So there's.
If you want to know what the definition of hemp is, they're going to debate it.
I know.
Andrew has his hand raised.
Oh, what do you want, Andrew? Tell me. How are you?
I don't think we have enough time to answer that properly for tonight's topic, but I was kind of wondering, work sessions, when they hold those, like what you mentioned for finance, are those different than executive sessions in any way other than length?
They are a little different, Andrew, because they may invite in some experts, like if it's a work session on funding something for the prison, they may have the head of the Department of Corrections come in to answer questions. So the public cannot testify at that, but a work session means we're really going to knuckle down and try to understand it. And finance is notorious for doing it because it's so complicated. And they need to get the experts in to give them more information. They might move into executive session right afterwards. They're allowed to do that. Or they might schedule executive session, that's the decision-making session for the committee. They might schedule that for the next week. It's up to them.
Thank you.
Does that help?
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot, actually. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You want to talk about these kind of meetings?
Oh, well, I don't. There are all sorts of committees and commissions in the legislature, and some of them are very good, and some of them are just limping along. They were created a few years ago, and they probably should have been sunsetted. They tried to clear that up a few years ago. So you're really looking for the committees that hear the bills. Bills are assigned to a committee, and it's usually logically assigned. Somebody said this looks terribly inefficient. Well, duh.
That's the State House.
You were absolutely right that this is an inefficient way to do it, that every single bill that's submitted, unless it's merged with another bill, will come up for a hearing, even the ones that are weird. And even the ones that are so simple that you think they should be taken care of easily, like naming the new town square in a particular town after a recently fallen soldier. That shouldn't have a hearing. It ought to be handled in a very efficient way.
Well, maybe AI can fix it.
No.
There's an idea.
I think that would have to change our constitution and that would be hard.
We'll hire Gemini as, this year, because the legislature, the House committees are meeting not in the center of Concord, but in another building. Did you know that? The building is being repaired, so they're 2 miles away. And for that reason, they knew, sometimes you got to drive between them if you're a legislator, because you've got a bill that's now in the Senate and you've got a House committee and all that. And the leadership tried to say, please keep down the number of bills you submit. It's going to be hard enough in these temporary quarters. The quarters are working out okay. But the legislators didn't listen to the leadership at all on that. How many bills were submitted this year? Do you remember? It was way more than we should have had in the second year of a session. I don't remember now. I just know that
800 and 1,000.
That's normally what it is, yeah.
And they hoped to keep it down like 400 or something, but they didn't. It was nowhere near.
1,163 bills were filed this year.
Yeah, so clearly the legislators didn't listen to their own leadership. Oh dear, all right.
So,
Go ahead.
my sense has been that by the time a bill comes to the floor, the Democrats and the Republicans each have their separate little meeting in the
They
morning.
do.
And they all say, vote this way on this bill, vote this way on this bill, and if this amendment comes up, vote it. And about, maybe 1 out of 1,000 times there might be, you can vote your conscience on this one. And most of the reps seem to follow the recommendations which are coming from their own party. So I'm wondering if the best time to get involved is not when it's coming to the vote, when you're unlikely to be able to sway somebody away from their extremes, but earlier when you get to know a committee, get to know how the committee works, go to their meetings regularly and become familiar, and then you can maybe head things off a little earlier.
So that is the other thing. Once you get to know a committee and the committee gets to know you and respects you, yes, that's where you can get the committee to make a different recommendation or to amend a bill. And that may be sometimes the best we can hope for, is to amend a bill.
These are all in Concord.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you cannot
That's not
testify.
convenient.
You cannot testify online. You can submit written testimony, but you can't, they're not doing it via Zoom, in other words. They did during COVID.
Yeah.
And that's when all this started, that they created this online way of signing in support or in opposition. Let's talk about that. When Olivia gets back and gets done.
Sorry, here. Hand out the cupcakes.
Could you go to we're on the home page. Could you go to the House sign-in page, please? No, we're not on, I'm sorry, on this page, just scroll down to House remote sign-in. So we're still on the home page of the gcnh.gov, gc.nh.gov. Okay. And we're at the point where they're going to hear a bill. You looked it up, you saw it in the calendar. Okay, it passed the Senate. It's now coming to the House. The House committee is going to have a hearing on it. So
I want to sign in, right?
we're
House.
going to sign in. Yep. And Lord, I had a real-time example here. Wait a minute. I'm going to give it to you. Just hang on. Here we go. Friday, March 13th. Oh, forgot. Yeah. Might be easier if we did in the Senate. Go back, Olivia. There's one, this is for a House committee. Let's say
For a House committee or?
I want to do the Senate because then you don't have to put in your personal info first. They don't look alike. You're picking the date of the hearing. It's March 13th. So we're a little bit late, but tomorrow you can do this. Okay.
Until midnight of the.
Senate Education Finance.
Senate Education Finance, and then you select the bill. It's HB 1815. Now, you don't know what that is, so I will tell you that this is a bill that changes the state's role in how it finances so-called adequate education. I didn't like it.
No.
So I oppose it. I'm gonna just trust Liz.
Yes. So she clicked off, I oppose the bill. Now, then she sees I can represent myself. I'm a member of the public. She can click continue and she'd put in her personal information. And she's going to do it. All right. You don't have to.
Hey,
I trust you.
If you get this far, man.
I know if you've gotten that far. So, I was going to do it for myself here because I hadn't done it yet. I was going to do it tonight. All right.
So then I have to agree.
Now, then you have to click that. I agree that I'm submitting this, through my, it's truthful. It's my best information. It's part of the public record. And then if you've got another Senate bill, you could sign up again and do it all over again, you know, with.
I have
a
written
bill.
testimony on this.
So here we go. If you have written testimony, and there's a way to submit it in the House version of this where there's a little box and you can type into it. It makes most of us feel better to give at least a few sentences of reason why we oppose or support. But I don't know if any of you saw the article in, let me get it out here. From citizenscount.org. This is a New Hampshire nonpartisan group that organizes a lot of information, and they did a study. I'll read what it says. They set out to determine how these online submissions, your little, 3 or 4 sentences of why you oppose or support, how they might impact committee votes. The data suggests that online testimony may be influential on lesser known or less partisan bills. That's good, all right? So not a big partisan issue, but maybe the committee will listen. But on most bills, it seems to have no impact or possibly even a negative impact. Now, how is that depressing or not? All right, so
Better to just say no and not say why?
Or even.
in 2025, House committees held 963 public hearings that invited online testimony. Individuals signed in over 170,000 times, with an average of 179 sign-ins per bill. Now, that average is ridiculous because some get no sign-ins. And we know that there was one education bill that was going to limit adequate education to reading, writing, and arithmetic. Do you remember that wackadoodle one? And that got 13,000 oppositions and 6 supports. So this average means nothing. So we know volume varies from bill to bill. About a quarter of the public hearings had fewer than 10 people register opinion online. So some bills just don't get public reaction. But 3% of public hearings had over 1,000 people sign in online. 3%. Yeah. So, some of the bills get a lot of attention. And as I said, that one got 13,000 sign-ins.
There was one that got 40,000.
Was that the bike license bill? I think it was the bike license.
Yeah.
$50 to register your bike.
To register your bicycle.
And your tricycle. I mean, nothing was left out.
So this study goes on to say it's not clear how many representatives take the time to read through the online testimony. They would have to do that on their own time just because they want to.
Because they're patient.
I know, Kim, I
You're not
understand.
encouraging me to do this, I must say.
No,
I'm not feeling encouraged to do
But-
this.
I understand that.
But they
But the
do.
numbers matter.
I mean, I was at a hearing on Tuesday and the Democrats said, this is the number of people I've heard from. Yeah, so that part of you.
So there-
Also, some of the reps didn't get trained on how to find online testimony submissions. So when reps say, I don't know where they are, I'm like, okay, you go to committees, you go to online testimony submissions,
Yeah.
and then you can look at a bill and
See, Olivia can teach them. But, are they going to take the time? They're going to take the time on a bill where they're really curious what the public impression is. So that's not the majority of the bills.
Or the majority of reps.
I was just
That's
gonna say.
right, that's right.
More concerned about.
but here's one where
So I have.
67 supported and 811 opposed.
Mhm.
And there's 2 people who attached testimony, only 2 testimony.
Yeah, because most of us say, I
Oh, no,
want to
they-
oppose it, or I want to support it, but I'm not.
That's good news because it means we don't have to spend so much time.
You
and
do
we can
not.
do it more.
The time you want to spend is if you're actually going to testify, and I will get to that because I don't want to run out of time for that. So let me just finish a little bit about this Citizens Count study. And that is that some committee chairs, and I praise Ross Berry of election law for doing this, will at the end of a hearing on a particular bill say, online were submitted 844 opposed and 347 in support. He gets it into the public record. Bob Lynn in Judiciary, I've gone to a number of those hearings this year, never mentions it. So it's up to the chair. But Olivia knows that we had a plant in election. Sorry.
A mole.
We had a certain member of the election law committee who 2 years ago would say to the chair, Mr. Chair, might we have those numbers, please, of how many online and got it. And so now he does it. I mean, he realized too that it should be part of the public record. So I give Chairman Berry a lot of credit for doing that.
He doesn't actually respond to them. You saw the numbers on that.
Well,
On
that's
the last
a
one.
different matter. I mean,
800 and so
But-
some opposed.
And it passed, right?
Yeah.
6 for it and 180 against it. This is so New Hampshire, you know?
Yeah.
811 against
Yeah,
it.
it's a New Hampshire thing. Yeah.
Andrew asked a question.
Yes.
Seems like several committees have a rep as the clerk for that committee, so maybe at least one person reads the submissions? Question mark.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. There is a clerk of the committee and probably has to print them out and put them in the paper record. Whether she reads them when she prints them, we don't know. So anyway, it was interesting. It was a discouraging article to me because I do encourage people to sign in, oppose, and or support. Use your conscience, but I'll tell you what the league's position is if that matters to you and you can follow along. So yeah, you were so good, Olivia. You found the article right there.
Kaylee found it.
Oh, Kaylee did. All right. Thank you, Kaylee. I just found it fascinating. It just popped up this week. So let's talk about testifying at hearings because here's where you can make a difference. And there are two main kinds of testimony that you would present at a committee hearing on a bill that is so important to you, it's worth driving from Hanover to Concord, because that's what you're going to have to do. And that is either lived experience, your personal experience, that is going to open the eyes of the committee. There was one bill that has just gone through the legislature, partly through it, on banning nitrous oxide, I think, as a recreational drug. I guess it's huffing, right? They breathe this stuff. And there was someone who testified in committee about her daughter's experience as a user that she wasn't even aware of until her daughter's death, when they found 700 empty containers of nitrous oxide in the girl's apartment. Oh, all right. Look at how we're looking at each other. This is what the committee did. Now, I don't know what they might have voted before, but it changed, it influenced that committee. And they voted to pass that bill, to recommend ought to pass on that bill. A few years ago, there was an abortion bill that would have made it harder for a late-term abortion, even when the outcome of the abortion was going to be a fetal death. And a woman testified in that committee about her own experience carrying a fetus that she knew would not survive. And again, it changed that committee's view so that they amended the bill significantly to allow for a more compassionate point of view. Those are very dramatic. It doesn't have to be that dramatic, but on some bills, you may have a personal experience that if you share it, will open up a perspective that the legislators had not considered. So please think of doing that. It may be hard. We don't suggest you read your testimony, but I do suggest you write it out and make enough copies +2 for the entire committee so that they can refer to it again. But you will speak from a tiny note card. That's all you're going to need to just make the points you're going to make. So that is very powerful. The other kind of testimony that can have an effect is the kind that I like to do, which is research. My testimony looks like term papers sometimes. I've got reference citations at the end of articles, of studies, and so on.
Which bill did you do that on, Liz?
I don't think I did it this year, so I'm not sure I'm gonna find it. I've got a sample here, but from last year.
Oh, I think I remember one that you did a long one on.
Oh, and sometimes they're long, yes. And you know, you can't read it. So I say, I am giving you all the statistics from these studies. There are 27 states that do this. Here's their experience, you know, so that's the kind of thing that I will do. And if you are working for or volunteering with an organization that has done research, share it with the committee. Because it can change their mind. They're not going to do this research. They're going to either follow what the leadership tells them or nothing, you know? So you want to be the expert. And then I do print it out, of course.
Did you not submit your testimony online?
No, I can submit it online. I print it out, I talk, as you can tell, I talk without reading, so it's, you know, that's just the way I do, you know, years of being a teacher lets me do that.
Liz,
Yes.
is it worth, I guess the testimony is just general, but if you're gonna write letters or make phone calls, is there any benefit to calling people who you are not in the district?
I don't think so.
I think if it's, the bill's still in committee, I think it's okay to call the members of the committee. So if you're gonna call the 5 members of election
Yeah,
law,
that's a good idea.
I think that
Yeah,
it's the
that's-
committee people that you would wanna
Yeah,
call.
that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, but you wouldn't try to call the leadership or some other people that you don't know. They're not going to pay attention to you. That's why I said at the beginning, I'm your constituent, you know, I live in this town and you know, you're my rep and that's why I'm talking to you now.
Like if
But
you
the
wanna
committee
reach somebody
knows.
like Ellen Farnham is in Tamworth, she just met with the Republicans in Tamworth and to build a relationship. So like, it's also good to connect with people across the state who have relationships with their state reps too.
Yeah. I would like to talk about one other kind of testimony, and that's not given in the legislature itself, but rather in the court of public opinion. So we've got letters to the editor and op-ed pieces. And again, you've got to have something worth saying. You can't just say, I don't like this bill because it seems mean. Even though that's what we all think about a lot of the bills. But if you have something worth saying and you can actually say it in 200 or 250 words, a letter to the editor that names the bill and says and promotes an action like, we hope this bill dies because it will, you know, I mean, get very specific. It will gather support from the public, who will then contact their reps, you know, but at least it's out there. So a letter to the editor does not have to go to the union leader. It can go to your local paper. Is the Valley News still being published? Yay, all right.
Yeah.
I was worried about that for a while. Weren't they talking about not publishing?
No, the owners of that paper are committed to the process.
Okay.
Even though they are historically Republican.
Oh, that's fine, but they print letters from all sides. And so does the union leader. So check what their length is. Union leader is 250 words. I don't know what this is, might be 200. And you've got to really tailor your letter. You've got to write it and rewrite it. You know, think of it as your, you know, your Monday morning English assignment, Composition 101. An op-ed can be 800 words, can be up to 1,000 words. And this is where if you have some real expertise, or you can gather information, research, good, strong personal stories. These are powerful. Many people skip by the letters to the editor. They read the headline and say, I don't care. But the op-ed usually gets attention. And that will be read by legislators as well as the public. But you really can make an impression on the public, and that multiplies your effect, doesn't it? If they then contact their people.
Andrew has his hand raised.
Andrew, what's your question?
Just want to make a brief comment. One other place it's a good way to get information on is the Hampshire Bulletin, but the trick with them is it can't include a call to action. They very deliberately disregard anything that is a specific call to action. So you have to be a little more careful, but it does get to everywhere in the state because it's one of the state's newsrooms that every state has a free to everybody on. So
Yep. Thank you. And there are several good online news sources. New Hampshire Bulletin is one, In-Depth New Hampshire is another. You can find these on social media, or you could subscribe to them and they come in your email. And so that really keeps you informed on what somebody is seeing as a really important bill or issue. So Andrew knows how to follow through on these things, and he's very good about that. Thank you, Andrew. Let's assume that the bill that you don't like has gotten through the House, gotten through the Senate, they've both passed it, and now we know it goes to the governor, don't we? Who has the veto power over that bill.
The door's locked.
Oops, I think we locked somebody out. Thank you. So you can write to the governor or call the governor or email the governor and try to convince the governor to veto the bill. The governor has a little different take on it from the legislators. And it's not quite as partisan. It's more like what's for the good of the state. And sometimes governors make campaign promises that you can remind them of. You know, are you getting my drift here? I mean, it's a different kind of pressure. Yeah, Kim.
Why do you think Sununu vetoed the congressional map during redistricting? That was a little bit of a surprise. He didn't veto any of the others. He didn't, not the.
He saw it as an outright gerrymander, and he was not going to go down in history as approving that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the gerrymandering of the state Senate is
The executive council.
and the executive council, you know, yeah, they're bad, but the congressional one would have gotten him national attention as a supporter of a gerrymandered map. So he vetoed it. And so if you're going to write to the governor, you can email the governor from the website, nh.gov, and you can follow it through and you'll find a contact the governor thing. There's also a phone number you can call. Again, it's probably going to be a voicemail and you leave a message and it's tallied. But if you want to write to the governor or to your Congress people on any bills, please do not write a letter that goes in an envelope. They will not open it because there are real fears of poisoning. So, you know, in theory, the congressional stuff goes to some clearinghouse where it's handled. I don't know that they ever get it. A postcard could work for the governor. And so we have had postcard campaigns at times on certain bills and just try to inundate her office or his office with postcards. And they will read those, you know, but nothing in an envelope, please. So we've got kind of four chances of influencing state legislation. The House committee, the Senate committee, your own reps and senators when it goes through those committees, and then the governor. And you can have an effect. So despite what I said about, you know, they don't read the testimony. Well, they hear the testimony in committees, and there's no reason you can't share that testimony with your own rep if you want to on a particular bill. I was told to try to finish up Oh, yeah, I'll take a question first, then I'll try to finish up on a different tack.
So when you're thinking about, particular topics right now, and election law would be a good example. If you know the people who are on the committee.
Yeah.
And there may be some, say, moderate Republicans who are persuadable.
Yeah.
Strategically, would it make sense to find some friends in that district?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And get to know them and try to get them to be the ones to be reaching out to that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And that was my friend Dan, who was a Republican, and he was a moderate Republican, and he voted his conscience far more than was good for him in terms of
Not enough.
party leadership. Well, they give him a hard time, and he stood his ground for a number of years and got worn out.
We have one more question on this.
Okay.
Two people asking the same question. Does the executive council ever come into play on a piece of legislation?
It does not. No. The executive council does not have a voice on legislation. If the legislation is to start funding something and then you have to go out to contract, that's when the executive council comes into it. And they're probably not going to be influenced by you. They're very methodical in what they do. So we very rarely try to weigh in on the executive council. I'm not sure you actually. Okay. When all else fails, you go to court. And Olivia knows all about this, as does League of Women Voters. I've been involved in lawsuits since 2017 when we had a bill that was going to require documentary proof of domicile. And the registration form that would have been required for that was so confusing that people were walking out of the polling places. It took us 4 years to get through the entire trial, and the bill was stayed while it was going through the second trial. And then there was an appeal, and then the Supreme Court, we won. All right, we got rid of that. You do have to prove domicile, but it is in a much more doable way when you register to vote. In 2024, did any of you get one of those Joe Biden robocalls that told you to save your vote until November because the primary didn't count and it was a bunch of malarkey? This was a safe call. We hit the press very quickly.
I got it and I saved my phone.
Oh, good for you.
I don't have that landline anymore, but
Yeah.
the voicemail is still on that phone.
So we went to court on that, and we had some individuals as well as the League of Women Voters, and we won. And the robocall company very quickly said, yes, we'll pay a fine and we will never do this again. And the guy who was the so-called brains behind the whole thing was fined $6 million, which he doesn't have. So, anyway, he learned his lesson too. Right now, we're waiting for a judgment on House Bill 1569, which is the documentary proof of citizenship for a first-time voter. We had the trial, we finished about 2 weeks ago. And we expect a judgment by June so that we know what the law will be for the primary and the general election. And I said, when all else fails, you go to court. The Secretary of State in New Hampshire is being pressured by the Federal Department of Justice to release the voting rolls. And the DOJ is suing Secretary of State. And League of Women Voters, who sued the Secretary of State in the documentary proof one, is now on his side, and we're filing an amicus brief in support of our Secretary of State. So as I said, sometimes you have to go to court. And these are election law bills because that's what I know about. Other bills have been taken to court. It's a shame that the legislature has the power to make a law that is maybe clearly unconstitutional or damaging, And then we have to go through the court process, but thank goodness there is a court process. Did I encourage or discourage people today?
Encourage.
I hope I encouraged you to find bills you really care about, sign in because it does become part of the permanent record. You know, your same one where you missed school in 3rd grade and played hooky. That's part of your permanent record. Bills have permanent records. It's in there. But if you have really good testimony, please make the effort to get to Concord and do it, and then call your state reps, state senator, push the governor if you have to.
Can I add one thing? If you're going to testify in public, it's a good idea to give yourself, to try to arrive at least a half an hour before the hearing is supposed to start, because they go in order that you sign in. And so if there are 100 people in front of you, it could be, 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you're sitting there all day long. They do usually say, okay, Kim Frost, and then next is, Olivia Zink, and then this person afterwards. So you have a little bit of a head start. But I think your advice about speaking without a lot of notes is great, but I've seen many, many people, including me, with size 24 font, so I can read what I've prepared. Reading from a sheet. Don't feel like you can't stand up and read your statement.
You're usually given no more than 2 or 3 minutes
Right.
for your testimony as well. So you get these little pink cards that you can fill out in the house, and it says how much time do you need to speak? Don't put down 15 minutes. Put down 3 minutes or 2 minutes, because that's all realistically all you'll get. And it should be all you need, You shouldn't try to tell them what the bill's about, because they already know that. They've got it in front of them. So you just want to get to your point, make it, and yes, in your 24-point font so you can read it. Say those 1 or 2 important things, and then say, thank you for giving me the opportunity. They may ask you a question, and don't fake it. If you don't know the answer, say, I don't know. If you think you can find out, say, I'll try to get back to you. But don't fake it.
Andrew has his hand raised.
Andrew, go ahead.
Just one very quick question. How do you submit online testimony for senators? Because I know that process is different.
It's still in the box on the general court's homepage. When you go to sign in, opposing or not, or supporting, there is a place where you can send it as email testimony to the entire committee. So it's in that same place, Andrew, as where you just say, I oppose or I support. All right. Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you.
Olivia, are you going to talk about next week?
Next week is social media. We're actually not in this room. We're in the bigger room because this room is booked. So we'll be across the hall for those coming in person. Those coming on Zoom will just come on Zoom.
There you go.
There's different camera setups in the other room.
Yeah. And it's very, if you whisper, it will pick it up.
Yes.
And
if anyone's interested, this Sunday, we're celebrating the anniversary of Selma and Jonathan Daniels and voting rights at the Episcopal Church. And there is a Zoom in option on this if you can't make it down.
Down in Keene, right?
Down in Keene next.
Doesn't the league have a group going down to Selma?
Thank you.
The National League does. Yeah, they have an event. Yeah. Yep.
So I went to Concord to testify. I was working at Dartmouth